Hey guys, today in this tutorial we're going to see how we can scrape Yelp data, right? Maybe restaurant listings um, on Yelp using Puppeteer and Node.js. Okay. So what we're going to do is specifically pull out. Let's say I'm in San Francisco on this. Good enough, and this is the top restaurants, I guess. So we're going to try and pull these out. Okay, the data from this out using Puppeteer. Okay, so let's get into it. So this I've already typed it in because it's too much to type in live coding, and this is the basic framework, and the real logic comes here. So where I'm just loading Puppeteer here, headless mode, I'm running it, and I'm sending a user agent string to pretend to be on Macintosh using a Chrome. And I open a new page, just like any browser, and I navigate to the Yelp place over here, which I showed you, San Francisco. And I wait for the selector, which is the body, to load. This is just like jQuery loading, it's like the onDocument load function or whatever. And once that's loaded, it gets into the page evaluate. That's like opening the console and running functions. Now we can query whatever we want over here. We're going to be using a function called document.body dot query selector. Query selector. Right. This is good enough. Actually, if you just want one piece of data, but we want multiple pieces of data. So we're going to use a plural version of this called query selector all. Right? And that's going to return back an array. So I'm just going to call it and push it into something over here. Should be calling it post, but I'm just going to call it that. Right. So let's see what goes into that. So that's the framework that we're going to use. We may not use it that way. We'll see how this goes. So right click, if I go and try to inspect what this is made of. So I try to find one chunk of data fully and divide this document into subdocuments. That's the best way to actually scrape in my experience. So I'm going to try and find a class which contains quite a lot of that. Right. So if you look at this, actually, this is the division which seems to contain every other division. They're all childs of this. So all these other items are inside of that. The name, the review number, blah 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 blah. If I can keep going up, somewhere here it stops. Sort of. There's an li class before that, but it doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to stop at the division class and look for a class name which I can query on. Right? Lemon div, all that seems to be makes no sense, but container makes a lot of sense to me. You can see the word container there. That's good enough for us to scrape this data, right? So what we'll do is we'll try to run through this document and divide this into containers, these individual containers, and pull them out so that we cannot go wrong. We can't mix up data between containers and then iterate through them. So let me start it, and then you'll understand what I mean, right? So we're going to select using a query selector. We're going to use like a CSS query in jQuery, for example, a CSS query selector. So where I'm going to simply say, hey, give me everything which has the container class in it. But there's a problem with that. I could have done it just like so, which is dot container, and it would have given me everything. But there's a little bit of a problem with that because container itself is not alone. There's container underscore underscore something something something, right? So what I'll do then is just use a wildcard operator here to tell that the word container can appear in the class anywhere, almost, right? It should be there as that's it. So class name, instead of equals, I'm going to do so star equals container. Okay. So that'll give me a bunch of these containers and into an array. And now what I'll do is I'll just iterate through that array by just going post dot for each, and then I'm going to create an item that comes out of it and create the function here. There you go. The thing there, and there I can use item to do whatever I want, right? So let's try now to pull out something from this which will give us some confidence. Let's find some data now, right? So what I'll do is I'll go back here and then find something. Let's see if I can find the title. The title of the restaurant is, here we go. Yes, so if you see the title itself is in an H4 class. If you look at this, look at that. H4 contains the title. There is span and all that inside of it, but if you look at the parent thing, it's always a headline, you know. Experience tells me. So H4, they gave it away. We don't need the class name, nothing. There's only one H4. They will not be using it willy-nilly. I know that for sure, right? So item dot rather than document or body dot or whatever, it's just specifically into that area of the code. Dot query selector all. Instead of all, by the way, we're just going to do selector, the singular version of it, because we just need one H4. So we're going to call it H4 and call it inner text, right? And then call it, I guess, title. Okay, so all this okay, so let's just save this as Yelp, maybe get.js. Okay. So all this I like to pass into some sort of, contain it somewhere, right? All this data will get leaked out. So what we'll do is, instead of printing it, let's just push it directly into some sort of an array. Let's so declare an array here, instantiate it, and then push everything into that. Post items, not push. And I like to always make, if possible, you know, an associative array. So it's all neat and we know what's what. So I'm going to call it title. I'm going to keep the variable title. And that's our associative array. Let's push it out. All right. So I like to push it out within a bigger array. So I'm going to declare another one called items or something equals an array of, let's say, just the posts and then the post items. And then return the bigger array, because that way I can store all sorts of other extraneous information about this page over here later if you need to. It's just good practice. We're not going to do that. And then once this comes out, it comes out into the R post, which gets printed here, console.log, and the browser closes. So let's run this and see if we should be able to get title now. So let's see node yelp get node.js. Let's see if this, hopefully this works. There's a lot of code we've written without testing. Inner text of null. All right, I've done something here. Says it doesn't like item.query selector and of h4. Is it? Was it truly h4? Okay. Container. I think it could originate here. The problem. Right, pose. So it's definitely coming within this. So there seems to be a problem with h4. Have we used the word container wrong? All right. Oh, okay. I think I know what this is. There must be multiple containers. That's the logic here. So what we can do is put this in a try catch clause, right? So let's put all of this in a try section, because not all the time does a container need to have data. So this itself will, if there is no h4, then we don't need that data anyway. So this sort of works itself out very nice, and we catch it and do nothing about it. And that's what I think is happening here. Basically, it's just crashing because of the first time it tries to push it into an array and tries to fetch that data. So what we'll do is we'll ignore that entire, yeah, there you go, you got it. Fog, harbor, fish house, blah blah blah. You'll see a couple of extra ones that those are the ads. You can always delete them in different ways where you can, for example, detect that there is no serial numbers in it using some sort of string functions and remove it. Or if you want to get strict about it, then you'll have to probably skip the first two or something like that, or look at other clues in the pattern which eliminates them. There might be a word add somewhere, so you can use that to eliminate it. So for now, we're not going to get into that because it's just be too complex. So that's pretty good success. So let's see if we can get other data pieces here. One of the things that I will be interested in is, so we should actually already do something here, which is to check if the title exists. If there is no title, then there's a double check here. If title is not equal to null, then do everything else. Then in fact push, otherwise don't even bother pushing. And then do the query selectors for the others over here. So whatever else we're going to do, we're going to do here inside of the security that the title exists. If there's no title, we don't need anything. So that makes it clear for us, even though the try function does that, but it could be because something else is failing. But if title is working out, everything else should be fair game. Right? So let's see if we can get something else. What about the number of reviews? I think that's the first thing we look for, isn't it? So straight away I can see that it has the wordings review count here, which has some weird text to it, which is not a problem. We know enough techniques to look for review count within it. So we can use the same technique like this over here. So I'm going to do that here rather than this. I'm going to remove it, put that there, and then call it review count. Right. And then I think it's called review count even here. Yeah, review count. Class has a word review count in it. Should give a review count. Then we can add review count here as a variable and then pass. It's an associative array. Let's see if this works. Ah, okay, that happens sometimes when and title is not equal to, I think this is fine. Have we closed this? Absolutely yes. That happens sometimes when I don't have connection which is going properly. Yeah, let's just see what's happening with headless equals false. These things happen when you do this, guys. So let's see if the Yelp thing is opening. Please work. Undefined. Okay, we've done a mistake here somewhere. What have I done? Can someone tell me? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Boom. Okay, let's go back. Should work. Oh, oh, okay. Review count uses query selector all, guys. We should not be using it because we only have one review count. That's the plural thing. It gives an array back. That's why the undefined thing. So now I'm pretty confident I can bet something on this. That'll work. All right. Sorry about that. I was a little arrogant there. Let's just remove this. We don't need this. Review count, query selector, document.body. Oh, again, big mistake. I copied this. Never a good idea. Item dot. Sorry about that. But we're learning all these things because these are all important learnings. Item encapsulates that within that particular HTML rather than the entire body. Oh, God. I think if I just remove this, wait a minute. Review count, review count. title. Then I'm pushing post items. Okay, I can't believe I've done so many mistakes in one moment here. So let's just remove this. And then remove that. Let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. Uncertain. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry guys. So here we go. So we just have to bring this back. And again, I've done the mistake of, because of the copy, inner text. Need the inner text. Oh God. I'm so sorry about this. But isn't it fun to learn it live? There you go. Review count, we got it. We got the review count. Okay, it keeps changing as well. Okay. We'll never do that mistake of copying again. Okay. So let's see what else we can get now. Okay. Let's do the rating. Okay. So if I want to get the rating, this has a 4-star rating. Expand the rating. Okay, so that's a PNG. So the rating is not written anywhere. Oh wait, it's written here. You can see that it has a label which says area label which says 4-star rating. All right, that's good enough for us. But how do we point at it? How do we point at it? The funny thing is, we can use the label having the words star rating. Having the word star rating, because the 4-star becomes 5-star or 2.5-star, whatever. The star rating will remain. If a label has the word, because there could be other label. If a label has the word star rating, then pick up that element and pick up the full label of that element and give it to us. How about that? That's like Inception, isn't it? So now that's a tricky code. Before I lose it, let me write that code. Okay, so here's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it star rating. Okay, equals item. Let's just get through this. Query, don't say anything, anybody. Okay, now here we are. And here I'm going to start off. But here, instead of declaring the class, I'm going to declare area, whatever that is, label. I hope that there's no underscore there. Okay, that's the thing that we're looking at. And to add to the complexity, oh yeah, so it needs the words ratings in it, right? Star ratings or rating. We'll just go for rating. Should be good enough. Area label has the word equals rating, but not just equals. We're going to do a star equals because the wildcard rating can appear anywhere. Then now do we get the inner text? No, we go back. Now this gives us the element, hopefully, right? This gives us the element, and before we pass the element here, we don't need the element here. We need the area label of that element, ironically. So area label is an attribute, so we're going to use a get attribute function and then say to it, give me the same thing. Inception, I told you. Here we go. Star rating. Now hold thy breath. And let's see. Do not give me undefined as a result. I'm going to lose it. Here we go. We got it. Look at that. 4-star rating, 4.5, 4-star. Fantastic. Isn't it? Should we do one more? What about the address? And we stop there. Okay, guys? We're going to stop at addresses. Okay, so let's see. I think what we can do is that one. Can we get this? You can see this. There's a bunch of these different P's with the numbers are different. The address is a different one. Address has a different thing. So I don't think we may have to iterate through them. So what we'll do is we'll just get. So if you look at this, there's a div and there's a div and there's a div and there's a P class. P. That's the peer, right? And then the address comes. So everything is inside the P, the paragraph sort of tag, but then there's a lot of bunch of divisions around it, which makes it difficult to get to it, right? So, but they're all encapsulated in one big class called secondary attributes, which makes a lot of sense too. Let's get that element and we'll talk further later. Okay. So I'm going to just go and here and say, I'll call it that only, secondary attributes equals item dot query selector. Let's get this out of the way. Boom, boom, boom. Now what? Now I'm looking for a class which has secondary attributes in it. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, I'm going to go this route. Class equals, but it has star secondary attributes is the word that's there in that class. But that's not enough. I need all the P's in that class. How about that? Right, so because I'm saying all the P's, I'm going to put it as all, and then I'm going to put this as secondary attributes. Okay, so I'm going to collect all of them, but that doesn't give me the inner text yet. There's an array now. Right, so what I'll do is I'll run through secondary attributes. How about that? So let's run through secondary attributes as a for each, right, quickly. Item, in the item is taken, so we're going to use, I don't know, attribute or something, and call the function out. There you go. Boom, boom. I find it always awkward to write functions like this. I don't know why this is so. And let's pull out all the P's into something. So we'll call it let secondary attributes text or something, which will hold all the data here. So we're going to pull out secondary attributes text equals secondary attribute text plus, let's say I want to keep a separator /r/n. And then I'm going to go give me the, so this will give me the attribute of each, right? So if I just pull out the text of that P, because this, let's say there are 3 paragraphs in it, each paragraph will be the attr. So I address the attr, but I need the inner text of that. I hope you understand following this. Okay, guys. Okay, so let me explain what's happening here again. Secondary attributes is in a class called secondary attributes, but that's not enough. We're going to use the paragraphs inside that. Each paragraph, one points to, if you go back here, one points to the phone number, one points to some sort of portion of the address, other the larger sense of the address, right? So we need all of that concatenated, right? And all of that pulled out into a secondary attributes array. And then what we're doing is we are doing for each on that array, and it's like the item inside that array. That item dot inner text is nothing but the paragraph dot inner text, which we are going to pass and concatenate into secondary attributes text. And hopefully this should come out here. Secondary attributes text will be passed as secondary attributes text, right? If there's a lot of words which is bothering you here, do not worry. I think once you see the code, slowly you'll be able to understand. Let's run it. Here we go. We got it. Look at that. We got the address, we got even the phone numbers, right? So that's how you scrape Yelp using Puppeteer. But this is not enough. If you want to use this in production level, as usual, if you want to scale it, you want to rotate user agents then. Plus, you want to rotate IPs with us, otherwise this particular machine will be detected and blocked. So I have a service for that. I want to pitch that to you right now, because what the hell. It's called proxiesapi.com, and what it does is basically does everything behind the scenes for you. All you have to do is, if you want to get the Yelp URL, is to just pass the Yelp URL as a variable, as a parameter when you call our API endpoint, api.proxiesapi.com, right? And we'll do the rest for you. We have Puppeteer instances inside, so we do the Ajax rendering, JavaScript rendering for you. You don't even have to load up. You just use a curl call in any language, and you'll be able to fetch the data directly. We also handle browser identity rotation, and we rotate proxies, millions of them, residential, private, secure IP addresses across the world. We rotate them, and we do multiple retries automatically. We do captures, solving automatically. Everything, much more than this behind the scenes for you. And 1,000 API calls are completely free for you to test per month. And you don't even need a credit card to sign up. All you need is the API key. So if you sign up, you'll get the API key. And just this line, you can try this out, and you will never get blocked again. It's called a rotating proxy service. And if you don't like mine, you can use somebody else's, but do use one, right? There are quite a few in the market. I know what I'm doing. So this was born out of my need after working in this for more than 15 years. A bunch of us, and we've done hundreds of projects, very large scale to very small scale as well. And we've seen it all, right? One of the things, there is no skimping on this. You got to do it someday or the other. I suggest you do it as soon as possible, which is getting a rotating proxy server. Then all you do is you replace this entire thing with our API endpoint and pass the LP URL to that, and everything else. In fact, you don't need Puppeteer at all, because Puppeteer takes a lot of memory, a lot of consumption of resources, and you'll not be able to do much in parallel. And to control that is not easy. So what we do is we have thousands, yeah, hundreds of these installations, which can scale to thousands and thousands of simultaneous URL requests. Hundreds of people use it and do millions of URL fetches every single day, and rarely does anything fail for something that can be avoidable. Right? So in either ways, if you don't use it, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something from it. And I had a lot of fun, as you can see, showing how this works for you. And stay well. Thank you.